Elizabeth Warren leaned in and said 6 chilling words to Pam Bondi. "You're going to regret this." But what happened next? Nobody saw it coming. In one sentence, Bondi flipped the entire room and humiliated Warren on live TV. "You don't scare me, Senator." Bondi fires back instantly. It was supposed to be just another political panel. A stage, a few microphones, polite debate, and carefully rehearsed lines. But nobody, not even the moderators, expected what was about to happen. The event was a nationally broadcast panel on civil liberties and state rights. Sitting at the center were 2 powerful women, Elizabeth Warren, the outspoken senator from Massachusetts, and Pam Bondi, former Florida Attorney General, known for her no-nonsense attitude and fearless defense of freedom. The discussion started civil, but things turned fiery fast. Warren, clearly frustrated by Bondi's repeated defense of states pushing back against federal mandates, leaned forward with a tense expression. She pointed at Bondi and said, "If you keep pushing this anti-government narrative, you're going to regret it. This will come back to bite you." The room froze. The audience, made up of students, journalists, and political commentators, suddenly went silent. Everyone could feel the weight of those words. Was that a warning or a threat? Pam Bondi didn't blink. She turned slowly to Warren, kept her voice calm but firm, and delivered a sentence that would light up the internet just minutes later. "I don't take orders from people who think freedom is dangerous." Gasps echoed from the crowd. Even some of Warren's allies shifted uncomfortably in their seats. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was sharp, powerful, and devastatingly clear. Bondi had just flipped the entire moment. What was meant to intimidate her only made her stronger. In 1 second, the mood shifted. Warren had come looking for a fight. But Pam Bondi came armed with the truth. And that single sentence? It became the spark that would ignite a national firestorm. 2 different worlds. What sparked the clash? To understand why this moment exploded the way it did, you have to understand who these 2 women are and what they stand for. On one side, you have Pam Bondi, tough, calm, and always direct. The former Florida Attorney General has built her reputation around defending personal freedoms, supporting law enforcement, and pushing back on federal overreach. In her speeches, she often reminds Americans that the Constitution was written to limit government power, not expand it. On the other side sits Senator Elizabeth Warren, fierce, bold, and unapologetically progressive. Warren made her name calling out Wall Street, demanding more regulation, and pushing for sweeping government programs. To her, federal oversight is necessary for fairness and equality. She believes in big solutions for big problems, and that often means taking more control away from states. So when the 2 of them appeared on the same panel titled, "The Role of States in Protecting Civil Liberties," it was only a matter of time before sparks flew. The tension began to build as Warren accused some states, including Florida, of undermining national progress by resisting federal policies on climate change, healthcare, and education. She claimed these states were becoming laboratories for selfishness. Pam Bondi sat still, her expression unshaken. When it was her turn to respond, Bondi calmly said, "We're not undermining America. We're protecting the very freedoms that make America worth fighting for." That sentence struck a nerve. Warren interrupted, raising her voice, saying Bondi's stance was dangerous and could cost lives, and then she dropped the line that shook the room. "You better rethink your position, or you're going to regret it." It didn't sound like advice. It sounded like a threat. And that's when the famous Bondi comeback happened. Just one sentence that completely flipped the power dynamic. The stage wasn't just a platform anymore. It had become a battlefield for 2 completely different visions of America. One that sees freedom as responsibility and independence. another that sees freedom as something that must be carefully controlled and managed. The clash wasn't just personal, it was philosophical. And millions watching knew this wasn't just a debate, it was a defining moment. The crowd reacts, Bondi's words go viral. What happened in that room was powerful, but what happened after was explosive. As soon as Pam Bondi delivered that one-liner, "I don't take orders from people who think freedom is dangerous," there was a visible reaction in the room. Some audience members clapped. Others looked stunned. The moderator froze for a moment, unsure whether to move on or let the silence speak for itself. But the silence didn't last long, because within minutes, clips of the exchange began to appear all over social media. Small Blue Diamond Twitter/X was on fire. Hashtags like hashtag Bondi versus Warren, hashtag mic drop moment, and hashtag freedom first started trending within the hour. People were sharing the moment with captions like, "Pam Bondi just ended Elizabeth Warren's entire argument with one sentence. That's how you stand up to big government bullies. Respect. Calm, confident, and fearless." Small Blue Diamond on YouTube, political reaction channels rushed to upload breakdowns of the clip. Some called it a turning point. Others described it as one of the boldest defenses of state rights ever seen on live TV. Small Blue Diamond, even those who disagreed with Bondi's politics had to admit she handled the moment with grace, strength, and control. One independent journalist tweeted, "I don't always agree with Pam Bondi, but that was one of the most composed responses I've seen to an aggressive challenge. She didn't lose her cool. She didn't take the bait. She led." And then it got even bigger. Mainstream media picked it up. Fox News called it a defining moment in the debate over states' rights. CNN tried to play down the exchange, but even their analysts admitted Warren looked a little too aggressive for a public forum. Speech balloon the comment sections everywhere told the real story. "This is why people are done with political bullies. Pam Bondi just spoke for millions of Americans. I've never seen Warren get shut down like that before." For Bondi, it wasn't about winning an argument. It was about drawing a line and making it clear that no matter who tries to intimidate her, she won't back down from her principles. That's why the moment went viral. It wasn't just entertaining, it was symbolic. In a time where so many politicians yell, interrupt, and spin stories, Bondi stood still, said one sentence, and walked away as the clear winner in the eyes of millions. It reminded the country that sometimes the quietest moment can make the loudest impact. Warren's misstep: threats don't work on fighters. After the panel ended, the media storm didn't fade, it intensified. Elizabeth Warren's office quickly tried to do damage control. Her spokesperson released a carefully worded statement saying the senator's comment had been taken out of context and was meant as a policy warning, not a personal threat. But for millions of viewers, that excuse didn't fly. People had seen the footage. They had heard the tone. They had watched Bondi stay calm while Warren leaned forward, raised her voice, and delivered words that clearly sounded like a political threat. And it backfired. In fact, Warren's reaction may have caused more harm to her image than the actual debate itself. Political analysts across the spectrum agreed on one thing. She underestimated Pam Bondi. She thought Bondi would fold, or at least hesitate. Instead, Bondi stood firm and flipped the script in one line, making Warren look aggressive, out of touch, and unable to handle respectful disagreement. Television news channels ran the story for days. Senator oversteps, Bondi pushes back. Threat or warning? You decide. Freedom clash. Bondi versus Warren heats up the nation. And while Warren's team stayed mostly silent, Bondi didn't need to say much. In an interview later that evening, when asked if she felt threatened by Warren's remarks, Bondi simply said, When someone in power uses fear to shut down a conversation, they've already lost the argument. That quote lit up social media. It wasn't just a soundbite. It was a message to politicians, bureaucrats, and everyday Americans that courage is louder than intimidation. What made the moment even more powerful was how measured Bondi's response remained. She didn't shout. She didn't insult Warren personally. She didn't storm off or turn it into a meltdown. Instead, she showed something we rarely see in politics these days: composure under fire. And people noticed. Direct hit political strategist Alex Bennett said on a panel show, "Whether you agree with Bondi or not, she just demonstrated how to handle pressure with professionalism. She looked like a leader. Warren looked like a bully." And that's exactly what made this moment so powerful for audiences. In a time when so many politicians try to win by yelling louder or pointing fingers faster, Pam Bondi showed that real strength isn't about volume, it's about values. She proved that threats don't scare fighters, especially the kind of fighters who believe in freedom. Why this moment mattered? A lesson for every American. What happened on that stage was so much more than just a political debate. It was a reflection of a growing divide in America, between control and courage, between power and principle. Pam Bondi didn't just respond to a threat. She represented millions of Americans who are tired of being told to sit down, be quiet, and let Washington decide what's best for them. In that single sentence, "I don't take orders from people who think freedom is dangerous," Bondi didn't just defend herself. She defended an idea. The idea that freedom is not a favor handed out by government officials. It is a birthright. Scroll, this wasn't about Republican versus Democrat. It was about leaders versus controllers. It was about who serves the people and who tries to rule over them. Elizabeth Warren may have walked onto that stage thinking her position in the Senate gave her the power to intimidate. But Pam Bondi showed that real power doesn't come from a title. It comes from truth. And the truth is this: backhand index pointing right America was built by people who refused to be controlled. Backhand index pointing right by voices that stood up when it wasn't easy. Backhand index pointing right by leaders who didn't wait for permission to defend what was right. That's why Bondi's words hit so hard. Because people are hungry for leadership that's bold, clear, and unapologetically American. And in that moment, Pam Bondi reminded the country that there are still leaders out there who won't bow down, no matter who tries to silence them. Bell 4 viewers at home, this story is a reminder. Don't let fear dictate your values. Don't let power silence your voice. And never back down when it comes to your freedom. Whether you agree with Pam Bondi or not, one thing is certain: she showed us what it looks like to stand your ground. And in today's world, that kind of courage isn't just rare. It's revolutionary.